Hey guys, today I am going to give you a little September update and show you what's in our morning basket. Just talk about what we're using, how things are going, and maybe even some plans for next month. So if you would like to see what's in our morning basket, how we've been using it, stick around so you can find out. So I thought I would use this video as a chance to kind of just talk about the resources that we're using for September, but also talk about the Well-Educated Heart because some of the resources we're using are specific to this month for the Well-Educated Heart, which is what we are using for history, geography, different culture studies this year. So I am going to grab my basket and I think I'm going to take you over to the table so I can show you everything that's in our basket, just kind of talk about how we're using them, and then also show you what I have up on my shelf that I have been changing out for each month. Okay, before I go over to the table, let me welcome you and introduce you. My name is Adrian. I have been homeschooling. This is our 4th year. I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old this year, and we are also expecting another baby at the end of October. So I love to talk about books over here. I love to introduce you to the Well-Educated Heart. I can't say that I am an expert, but I do love it and would love to share that with you so you guys can fall down that rabbit hole with me. I love to share book hauls and recommendations. I am by no means an expert on homeschool, motherhood, books, anything in life, but I just thought that it would be so fun to share our journey and what we're using so that maybe you could get some inspiration or just feel a sense of community, that there are other moms out there that are just in the same season of life as you. So let me show you my basket and let's jump in. Okay, so here is my big old basket full of books. I normally keep this over by my rocking chair so that I can easily just grab and choose what we're going to be reading for that day. I'm getting further along in pregnancy, and getting up and down to find books is not something that I want to be doing right now. So I try to start every day off with our morning basket. This has just been a good way for us all to gather. It doesn't always happen in the morning, to be honest. A lot of days we don't even start until about 11:30, but that's okay. We're getting things done, and that's what matters. We're not on a time crunch. We can just go with the flow. So when we start our morning basket, I typically like to start with the things for my preschooler. I have tried doing a separate preschool time for her, and that worked for a bit, but it left my older two in a bit of chaos, and then trying to reel them back in from being deep in play outside or whatever activity they're doing just became really difficult. But they enjoy the books that are used for dental and classical preschool, so we just do it all together, and it doesn't add that much time to our basket. So we typically start with calendar time is what I try to do. I put my daughter's calendar time into one of these menus, and so we just go over simple things like her name and how she's feeling, the days of the week. We talk about the weather outside. Honestly, my 7-year-old still really likes to do this. And then there's just some fun sheets, and we don't do these if she doesn't want to. But she will like to sometimes just sit here and count and work on her number recognition, things like that. So we'll go through that, talk about the days of the week, what month it is, what the weather's like outside. We'll also sing songs for the days of the week and things like that. We will then move on to our daily poem. Sometimes we miss this for several days or over the weekend, so we have several to read from here, but they all really like this year. It was hit and miss last year, but my boys are getting older and they are truly enjoying some of these things a lot more. So that's really our calendar time. I have a few more resources in here that I want to add in for calendar time, but in August and September, I have just kind of been building up our stamina for school. I started off very basic in August, just finishing off some things we didn't do for the summer. This month, I am just adding in bits and pieces, so I'm not doing it all yet. Next month, I think I will add in the other things and make our morning time just a little bit longer. And I think that will work well for us. So we do that, and then we will read whatever story my little girl's preschool program calls for. And so this was it for this week. And we will just read that, talk about it. If there's any other books for her preschool program, we will throw that in there as well. And then we just pick something out of this basket. That's maybe one or two things. So it could look something like a manners and etiquette lesson, which takes like 5 minutes. It could be doing a hymn study, which only takes a few minutes. We have our Bible in here. Sometimes I do this in morning basket. Sometimes I do this at lunchtime. So this is one of those things. It's one or the other. It doesn't take that long. And we won't do it all. So after calendar time and preschool time, we really only spend another 10 or 15 minutes on anything in this basket. And then from my daughter's preschool program, we also shared this in our family subjects video, but we will either do an artist study once a week, or we will do a composer study with the resources from Gentle and Classical Preschool. So this is just once a week, and it is music one week and art the other week, which is perfect for us in this season. It is just enough that my children truly enjoy it, but it's not overwhelming that we can't fit it in. So that's the bulk of what we have been using. I also have things like the children's book of virtues that sometimes I'll pull out. Typically I'll grab this like for lunch if I don't have a whole lot that I plan on reading or talking about at lunch. We will read a story out of here, or we will maybe read a prayer out of this little book here that I have shared in the past as well in, I think, my August morning basket video. So that's pretty much all that's in our morning basket. Kind of how we do it lately. Our morning basket takes less than an hour. Sometimes it's only 30 minutes. This is the bulk of just morning basket. After we do our morning basket, we move on to the things for the well-educated heart. And I have been loving it this month. I did go ahead and plan just a little bit ahead of time this year. Last year, I just jumped in and flew by the seat of my pants, and it was not great. There is flexibility to no end with well-educated heart, but I need at least a framework or an idea of where we're going to be able to execute it well. So this year I went in and I picked several books and laid that groundwork for us so that we could be successful, and it has been wonderful. So I'm gonna move over here to this shelf behind me and show you some of the things that we've been doing, talking about how we're using these resources, and even just sharing some wonderful examples of the connections that my kids have been making. So for the month of September, using the Well-Educated Heart rotation schedule, we are learning about 1500s, the Age of Exploration, which are things like Marco Polo and Columbus, a few other things. And then I chose to learn about India this month. There are several different countries that you could learn about. You could learn about all of them, just one of them, a few of them. However, like I said, there's lots of flexibility, but I chose to learn about India this month. And so those are the things that we are focusing on in geography and history. And so I went to the library and checked out lots of books on those topics, pulled out whatever books I had from my stash on my shelves. And then I also went on to Well-Educated Heart, because as much as I want to own every single book that they have available, I don't. So you can read all of their books for free online, which is just truly amazing. Such a blessing. I can read them on my phone, tablet, iPad, whatever, but they also have lots of audio versions or audio of the books. I don't know how I'm trying to word that there. But some of their books they do have on audio. So I went onto their website and chose the books that we were going to read. So I don't have them physically here to show you, but I decided that for 1500s Age of Exploration, we were going to try My America Storybook, which has the full audio for the entire series. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go. There's no specific age range for this book or for this series, but I think it's a little above my kids. But I wanted to give it a try. It has an audio for each day of the month. And so for September, it has an audio about some person or event or whatever in American history for the 1500s. So I decided we were just going to play it when we're in the van. We're going to play it when we're going to the library or the doctor or the grocery store and see how my children react. Initially, I was going to try and do notebooking alongside this as well. I really wanted to do this more often, but I realized that's just not realistic right now because my kids are so little. But I put this on in the van and they love it. They want to listen to more. They're sucked in. A lot of it may go over their heads, but they ask good questions afterward and we just have discussions about it in the van. And then I have more books on the shelves over here. So if they are curious about something, we can go find more information or pictures to add on to that. So for example, I think the first chapter in My America Storybook is about Marco Polo. And they were like, what? Marco Polo is a person? I thought it was just a game. And so that was fun. They learned that new fact. And then I said, well, let's listen about Marco Polo. Let's learn a little bit about him. And then you tell me why you think the game is named Marco Polo. And it was just really sweet to see the answers that they came up with, how they connected with the story and all of that. And so we learned about Marco Polo in just an easy way, unforgettable way for them. And then on top of reading or listening to My America Storybook, for India, we are going to be using, where's it at here? Gentle and Classical Press On Mission India. So On Mission India talks about missionaries, it talks about geography, animals, the people, the food of this particular place like India. And so far we are about halfway through the month and my kids are loving this. We've really only talked about missionaries, how to pray for India, a little bit about their religion and population, and my kids just have latched on. They are fascinated by it. This also comes with a bunch of printables that I have here. And so it has things like maps, map work, memory statements, Bible verses that you can memorize, different animal flashcards, 3-part cards. It also has these adorable, where are they? We're going to find them. These adorable little paper dolls that we cut out and laminated. And so we can use those just to play with or maybe do narrations with or what have you. It has just added so much to the Well-Educated Heart stories that we have been listening to as well. So On Mission India for the Well-Educated Heart India portion. And then I have also been reading at lunchtime, what is it called? Our Little Hindu Cousins. So there is a series on the Well-Educated Heart website that is called I believe it's like Our Little Cousins. There's also the Twins series, which is adorable. So these books are so sweet. It just talks about these two little cousins and their life in India, and it just takes you through stories of their life. And your children really just connect with them. They're just kids just like them, and they have these daily things they have to do just like your children, but they live in India, so it looks a little different. What does that look like? We've read a couple chapters already, and even for me as an adult, it's amazing what I can learn from this story. And so we just go along and we read during lunchtime, and my kids just kind of ask questions like, wait, what's a turban? And so we look up a picture of a turban because it was talking about a little monkey that stole his turban and unwound it. And it was this very comical scene, but what's a turban? Why do they wear that? And then they went to the bazaar, and what's a bazaar? So we looked up what a bazaar was, or I would tell them and explain it to them, and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It talks about different routines and things that they have to do for their religion, and they're like, oh, that's for their religion? What's their religion? And we have conversations about that just as we're reading, but it's the sweetest little story, and it leads to so many great conversations. And so honestly, I think we have learned more about India through that little story than anything else. Again, there is also a twins series that goes through the different cultures as well, but I don't think they had a twins one for India specifically. So we have been loving that. I will leave links to all of these books and things that I'm talking about down below because I don't have a physical book here to show you. I wish I did. One of these days I will have the entire library and I will figure out where to fit it on my very full bookshelves. On top of that, we have been listening to a few folktales from India. And now I know this sounds like a lot, right? I have a basket full of books. I have audiobooks. I have a cousin's book. I have folktales. But we've only read like 3 folktales. And then my kids draw a picture about it and they love it. They love doing it. They will narrate it all on their own. They bring it up in their play later. They make connections to other stories or things we've learned about. But we've only done about 3. And then we've only read 2 chapters of this cousin's book. We will be able to finish it by the end of the month because it's a pretty short one. But we've only read like 2, and my kids have learned so much. We listened so far to 2 audio stories of My America Storybook, so Marco Polo and Christopher Columbus. And my kids have learned so much. Like, they keep talking about it and bringing it up. And we walked past a map in church, and my oldest child was like, look, Mom, there's India. And he knows where it is. And we've talked about how it's close to these other different countries and what continents it's in, just by simple conversation. We don't spend a lot of time on it. We do it maybe 2 days a week. And then, like I said, when we're driving in the van, and even those little snippets of stories and folktales and looking at maps and reading about missionaries has just enriched our lives so much, and we've learned a ton. So this may sound like a lot, but we've done like a fraction of what we could. We will not get through all of On Mission India this year. We will be able to come back to it next year because you come back to each topic every year. So next September, we will be able to come back to India if we want to. And I love that. We can just keep layering it on. But my kids have had so much fun learning through these resources. We haven't even touched Hungry Planet, Material World, Children Like Me. We haven't even touched those yet. That's my plan for the next week or 2. But it has been so beautiful. I don't even know how to fully put it into words or show you all of the things that I want to. Another thing that I have that we can use, but I'm not sure if we'll get to, is there are stories in the My Book House series right here, and I have gone through and tabbed all of them for each month. So you could just, here, let me pull one up. So I took each book, and so for each month, I tabbed, there's month 1, month 2, month 3, and so I could just grab a book off the shelf and say, it's month 1, let's see if this story is something that we want to read today. So if I didn't have enough books from the library or things to listen to, we could pull from here. My oldest child, and then as my second starts to learn to read, they'll be able to pull these off the shelves too and just browse and learn as they wish. Okay, so over here is how I have set up our kind of display for the month. These books up here are books that we will come back to each month. They will talk about the different countries, Children Just Like Me. There might be a book about, or a child in India, or Hungry Planet, Material World, Window on the World, to help us pray for the different countries we're learning about. And then I just had this book I set out, this shelf as well, is the U.S. history topic and the world topic, or world culture, I suppose. I don't know. And then I just have preschool books and library books down here. But I went to the library and I just checked out all the books that I could find on 1500s Age of Exploration. So that looks like, here, I'll pull this. So here is the basket of books that I have gotten from the library and my little India paper doll. These are books that I just picked from the library that I thought that my children might want to look at. This one looked good. It just had lots of pictures and maps. And so these aren't necessarily for us to sit down and read through, but just to kind of browse. My oldest has read this. I think that this would be fun to read at lunchtime, ideally before we have to give it back to the library. Oh, here's the little boy paper doll. They're so cute. I grabbed two with Marco Polo. You could also study the Vikings, so I grabbed this because that fits in with the Age of Exploration. We really like these simple A Picture Book of Christopher Columbus books. We have a couple of these on our shelves, but we don't own this one. And again, these can be independent reads, maybe lunchtime reads. We like these too. At first, my children were not so sure, but they realized that they're kind of goofy, but they give you just enough fun little facts to add to what you're learning. My 7-year-old really liked this one, just simple. He liked to flip through it. So if we were deep diving about the Vikings, we could do some of the activities in here and really read through this. But it is pretty fun to flip through just a simple little book. This is the only story, like picture book, that I could find on India. So we will read this at lunch one day before this has to go back. And then this last one here. So those are just for my children to look at as they want to. If we just run out of reading material this month, I can grab these for lunch as well. And then these are the few books that I actually owned. This is The Imagination Station, Voyage with the Vikings, Where is the Taj Mahal, What was the Age of Exploration, Magellan, that's another one you could learn about, First Around the World. And then this is from The Well-Educated Heart, My Book of Delights, which is just so beautiful. This is full of just beautiful artwork, poems, stories. I think some of these have like little biographies of poets and different things, different stories from the different cultures that you could learn about each month. Just beautiful. I could not resist. I did not want to read this one online. I wanted to have my hands on it, have my children be able to flip through this, just marvel at its beauty. Look how beautiful that is. But those are the books that we own for this month. Okay, so I know it was kind of a hodgepodge of everything that we're using, but this year is just kind of a hodgepodge of what we're using. I don't have a specific curriculum. I would not call the Well-Educated Heart a curriculum. It is definitely a way of life and educating. It's a philosophy that I am still learning more and more about every day. And each year that I just look into it and find more resources and ways to implement it into our life and our homeschool. But we have really been enjoying it. I hope this kind of gives you an idea of how we're using things, how often we get to them, but that it can still be beautiful no matter how deep you go into all of the resources that I have showed you. So we are definitely getting into a swing of school and morning time, and honestly, my children have been loving it more than they ever have before, and I think that's because I started off pretty slow. I didn't have a lot in the basket, and I have been just gradually building our time reading through the books that are in there. And some mornings they're like, wait, read something else, or will you read this, or will you read a picture book, or how about that story, you know, where we drew a picture, and they've really been enjoying it. So I think my slow start worked pretty well, and my goal is to add just a bit more next month, But if you've been around here, you know that we are expecting at the end of the month, our new little bundle of joy should be here. So school will again change, which is why I am trying to just be flexible while I do want to add in more things. It is just as we get to it. There is no like, we do etiquette on Monday and poetry on Tuesday and history 3 days a week. I do have an idea that I would like to do history or geography a couple of days a week, but it is really just a go with the flow, learn what we want to and what we can, so that when baby gets here, we are not all stressed out because we are trying to accomplish a specific set of tasks. We have a basket, a feast that we can pick from, and we can just enjoy it together as a family. Our morning basket has been the highlight of our month. The rest of the subjects are going pretty well, things like math and phonics and writing, but they are definitely not the highlight of our day. Time spent together just hanging out in our playroom, schoolroom, doing some independent activities while listening to stories and having conversations has truly been really enriching this month. So I would love to hear how your homeschool is going, if you've started, or what your plans are, and any resources that you would love to share with everybody else. Again, I love to share free resources. I love to share lots and lots of books on this channel, and I hope that this was just helpful to you, that you enjoyed it, and that you will stick around. So go ahead and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you later.